What is good, everybody? Welcome to the Talking Sports with Manny YouTube channel. This is the NFL show. Tons of things happened this week in NFL, and I don't know how to react. One thing's for sure, the Cowboys will be the Cowboys. We're going to talk Cowboys. We're going to talk all things NFL. Hopefully your team did well. My team didn't do so well, but we're going to talk about all this and more right after this intro. Let's get it. Guys, before we get started, there are some guys right now that are leading the league in different categories that is going to shock you. So I'm going to go through those, and we're going to discuss these things because when one of my guys told me who was the top 5 NFL rushers right now, I was shocked. I was like, what? There's no way. This cannot be possible. And it is possible. It's pretty crazy right now. So let me go ahead and pull this thing up. I was amazed. When I saw the list of leaders. So in NFL right now, the number 1 passing leader right now is Tua Tagovailoa. He has 1,600 yards passing, followed by number 2, which is Kirk Cousins, followed by number 3, which is a shocker to most, and that's C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud, yes, C.J. Stroud, the rookie, he has 1,400 plus yards right now passing, and right under him is Matthew Stafford and then Josh Allen. You can kind of expect that, Matthew Stafford is number 4 because he's throwing the ball to these wide receivers. We're going to talk about the return of Cooper Kupp. He looked great. Now it gives the Rams possibly maybe the best trio of wide receivers in the league when you count Puka Nacua, who I'm gonna get to his stats in just a minute. Then you have Cooper Kupp, obviously. Then you have Tutu Atwell. Okay, so when I talk about this, you're gonna see why I could possibly say the Rams might have the best trio in the league. Who do you guys think is the best trio of wide receivers in the league? Let me know in the comment section. All right, so in terms of the rushing leaders right now, I'm gonna go more in depth on that, but I'm gonna do the rushing last because it's pretty intriguing. And it's pretty crazy at the same time. So you have Tyreek Hill for the wide receivers. He's number 1 at 651. You have Puka Nacua, the number 2 leading wide receiver right now at 572. Really, had Justin Jefferson not got hurt, Justin Jefferson might have been either number 2 or number 1. We all know what Justin Jefferson brings to the table. So because of the injury, Justin Jefferson falls to number 3. I don't know the severity of the injury. I don't know how long he's going to be out, if he's even going to miss time. But he's down right now with a hamstring injury, and those things tend to linger. So Puka Nacua has 1 more yard than Justin Jefferson. So at number 4, you have A.J. Brown at 541. Okay, he's been tearing it up. He's looked amazing, especially these last 2 games. DJ Moore is at number 5 after shredding the Commanders for 230 yards. Here comes DJ Moore as a number 5 leading wide receiver in the NFL. When you talk about tackles, you have Zaire Franklin at 69 tackles through 5 games so far. You have TJ Edwards from the Chicago Bears with 62, Roquan Smith with 54, Fouché Olukon with 53, and Ernest Jones tied again with 53. So those are your top 5 tacklers right now in the NFL. When it comes to sacks, you have TJ Watt. I mean, is that a shocker? He has 8 sacks right now. Number 2, you have Khalil Mack with 6 sacks after that monster game he just had. And then you have Danielle Hunter with 6 sacks. Then you have Trey Hendrickson with 6, and then you have Josh Allen with 6. Those are your sack leaders. Obviously, there's multiple guys that are tied for 6. We're not going to go through all of them. Just know that there's, right now, visibly 4 guys that are tied for 6. I'm pretty sure that there's more when I open this up, even more. Interceptions, you have Jordan Whitehead with 3, Jesse Bates with 3, Deron Bland of the Cowboys with 3, Jerry Jacobs with 3, and Kareem Jackson of the Denver Broncos with 2. Now, let's talk about the most intriguing position and the most intriguing list. For this one, I'm going to give you guys the top 10 because this list is crazy. I promise you guys it's crazy. Christian McCaffrey is the number 1 leading rusher in the league. And mind you, yesterday versus the Cowboys, he didn't have to play much. He didn't have to play much, so he didn't really gain a lot of yards yesterday. But even then, he's still leading the NFL in rushing yards with 510. Okay? You have Devon Achane, who is leading the league. Who's number 2 right now. After 2 monster games, mind you, he didn't play the first game. He's played 4 games. And really, the bulk of his yards is pretty much coming from the last 2 games. Devon Achane, rookie from Texas A&M. He is the number 2 leading rusher right now with 460 yards rushing. Number 3, you'll never guess, is Zach Moss. Zach Moss right now has 445 rushing yards. And it's been, he's been solid. He's had like 2 or 3 games. He's been really, really solid. And mind you, this is with Jonathan Taylor coming back yesterday. He still explodes for a monster game with over 160 yards rushing and 2 scores versus one of the best rushing defenses in the Tennessee Titans. So that was crazy to me that Zach Moss is 3. DeAndre Swift had that one amazing game, and he's been solid all year. He has 434 yards rushing, so he's number 4. Number 5 is Travis Etienne with 369. Number 6 is Breece Hall with 387. And mind you, Breece Hall has been dealing with injuries and time split with Dalvin Cook, even though Dalvin Cook is non-existent. Dalvin Cook is not doing anything right now. But you're going to see these numbers go up and down for running backs, especially when they have amazing games or breakout games. You're going to see them catapult from, let's say, 11 to like 5. So you're going to see this thing fluctuate all through the season. Some of these guys have played 4 games. Some have played 5 games. David Montgomery has only played 4 games, but he is at number 7 right now with 371 yards rushing. James Conner's at 8. Bijan Robinson is at tied with 8. Tony Pollard is next, and then Derrick Henry. That kind of rounds up those top 12-ish guys. So, yeah, it's just kind of crazy that, guys like Kenneth Walker is way at the bottom. Guys like James Cook is at the bottom. Guys who we were thinking that was going to, skyrocket. Raheem Mostert that was leading the league in rushing after 3 weeks. Now he's all the way down to 14 or 15. It's just the nature of RBs. You're going to have breakout games. You're going to have non-breakout games, and these numbers are going to fluctuate. But it's just crazy that top 5, seeing Zach Moss at number 3, seeing Devon Achane, however you say his name now, at number 2, and then, Swift and Etienne, 2 guys that, with Swift, we weren't sure of. We didn't know what we're going to get out of Swift this year. Swift has looked great. He looks good behind that offensive line for the Eagles. And there has not been a time share. There has not been a split. DeAndre Swift is the guy until he gets hurt. Knocking on wood. Hope he stays healthy. But these are your leaders for the NFL. Now let's go ahead and get on into the show. So the Commanders play the Bears to kick things off for Week 5. And to be honest, y'all, my Commanders were ultra trash. They looked bad. They let the Bears put up 40 points. Justin Fields went crazy, 282 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. He tore it up. Khalil Herbert was on his way to a magnificent day until he got hurt. He was averaging 7.6 yards per carry. Moving on along. DJ Moore, man, breakout game, the game of his life, 8 receptions, 230 yards, 3 scores, and that catapulted DJ Moore into a top 5 wide receiver in terms of yards this season. This is, if he keeps having performances like this, he's going to be in the Pro Bowl. Who knows? Could possibly be a All-Pro. We always said if DJ Moore can find him a consistent QB, things can be great for him. And who knows? Maybe Fields has turned the corner. Cole Kmet also had a good game, 5 for 42 and a score. Now, on the flip side with the Commanders, man, of course, Sam Howell had empty stats. He had 388 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT. He was sacked 5 times, but in terms of numbers, he put up numbers. He was able to throw the ball to 9 different wide receivers, guys from Cole Turner to Jamison Crowder to Logan Thomas. 9 different guys caught at least 1 pass. 11 different guys caught at least 1 pass from Sam Howell. Defense looked terrible, atrocious. They got sacks, but the sacks didn't matter. They did some things defensively, but it didn't really matter. It's just the nature of sports, the nature of the game. Sometimes things look good, sometimes things don't look good. So the Commanders look so bad. Let's talk about the game in London. So this is the second game to kind of kick off the week. Game in London between Jacksonville and the Bills. Look, honestly, I enjoyed the game. It was pretty good. It was a pretty fun game, especially for my fantasy teams. Trevor Lawrence had a good game in terms of moving the ball between the 20s, but when it came down to score, he had INTs or fumbles. I mean, he had turnovers. I thought he had INT. No, yeah. So, yeah, he had 2 fumbles. I'm sorry. He had 2 fumbles in scoring position, and it just sucks. It just sucks, but then we're still able to kind of close this thing out. Everybody get the win. Thanks to a big game out of Travis Etienne, who rushed the ball 26 times for 136 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. He also pitched in with 4 receptions for 48 yards. I love to see Etienne being a guy that can catch the ball and run the ball. Trevor Lawrence, like I said, had a good game, moving the ball, getting yards, 315 yards, passing, 1 touchdown, and that 1 touchdown went to Zay Jones. Calvin Ridley had a great game. I put up a tweet saying that the number 1 wide receiver in Jacksonville is Christian Kirk. Immediately, Calvin Ridley started going off for 7 receptions for 122 yards. Christian Kirk did have 6 receptions for 78 yards. Christian Kirk, to me, is just more consistent. Both guys got 8 targets. The thing is, this is Christian Kirk every single game. Calvin Ridley has only had 1 good game in the first game and then this current game in week 5. So can you really trust Calvin Ridley to continue to produce at this clip? I don't know. But I do trust Christian Kirk a lot. So I stand by what I say. Christian Kirk is that number 1 wide receiver for the Jags. I said what I said. You guys can come after me if you guys want to. It just is what it is. That's just how I feel. On the flip side, Josh Allen put up yards. This is one of them things like these guys put up yards, but they could not get points on the board. Josh Allen had 359 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT. He also ran the ball 4 times for 14 yards and a rushing score as well. So your fantasy teams looked great. Now, Stephon Diggs did his normal thing, 8 receptions, 121 yards, and a score. The biggest surprise in the Bills passing game was Gabe Davis. He's a guy that I've always said is just not that good. But he continues to produce this year. He continues to score. Gabe Davis has been solid for the Bills this year. And he continues to be solid, which is the crazy part. He had 6 receptions, 100 yards, and a score. I didn't even know he had 100 yards. And I watched the game. Maybe he snuck some passes here and there, or maybe, I don't know. For whatever reason was, I just did not know that Gabe Davis had this kind of a game. So he might be a guy that you might want to take seriously in fantasy and start starting him more, to be honest. Let's go ahead and go to the Titans game. The Titans, man, I'm doing a video later on TikTok just talking about the Titans and who they are and what's wrong with these guys. Like I cannot put it into words. They're 2-3. They are a disappointment, especially when you felt that you were better than the Colts. You're better than the Texans, right? Both guys have gotten their franchise QBs, even though Anthony Richardson has gotten hurt. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. We're going to get to Anthony Richardson in a minute. But, yeah, the Titans have looked really, really bad. Ooh, excuse me, guys. Ryan Tannehill, 246 yards, an interception, and he really didn't even move the needle for these guys. Derrick Henry, another game where Tyjae Spears is either out-snapping him or getting on the field or creating plays. Derrick Henry, 13 carries for 43 yards. Tyjae Spears, 7 carries for 34 yards and a score. Tyjae Spears continues to show that he could be that guy. I've talked about the Titans blowing this thing up. Blow this thing up, go to Will Levis, see what you have, play your young guys, trade Derrick Henry, let Tyjae Spears run wild. He is the future of this team. You have DeAndre Hopkins here. It's just not going to work. Let him go, trade him, try to get a 5th-round pick, a 6th-round pick, anything. You got to move off of some of these vets. It's just not working here in Tennessee. They're still going to be competitive. I still feel like that the division that the Titans are in is going to come down to the wire. I think only one team from that division makes playoffs. That's just how I feel. And whoever that wins it pretty much makes a playoff. So the Titans are in play to win that division, but the team is just very, very bad. For the Colts, they looked good defensively. Zaire Franklin just continues to make plays, 12 tackles there. So Anthony Richardson continues to run the ball. They drafted a quarterback to play running back, which doesn't make any sense. Jonathan Taylor, he comes back. He signs the deal. Now he's there, right? And you think, okay, this is Jonathan Taylor's team. You got Anthony Richardson. And Anthony Richardson, AC joint, he's hurt on his stolen shoulder. He's going to be out for more than a month, which means they could put him on the IR, which would be smart to do. Put him on the IR, being that you know he's going to miss more than 4 weeks. Why not put him on the IR? Save that spot, grab some guys. So you have Jonathan Taylor. He plays. He doesn't play a lot. He gets 6 carries for 18 yards. He's going to have to ramp up and get back healthy and get back into the swing of football. But on top of that, Zach Moss went off 23 carries, 165 yards rushing, and 2 scores versus this Titans defense that's supposedly be pretty good. Somebody on Facebook is saying, hey, it's not telling me who, it just says Facebook user. So whoever you are, what's good, man? Appreciate you hopping on the stream. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Talking Sports with Manny. I appreciate it. Now, yeah, Zach Moss, man, he went off. But with Gardner Minshew playing, I love the potential for these wide receivers, especially Joshua Downs. Josh Downs had 6 receptions, 97 yards. That's amazing. You know, Pittman, all these different wide receivers are going to have an uptick in their performance or in what they can do or in their production. Gardner Minshew is a better passer of the ball than Anthony Richardson. But we'll see. We'll see as the season progresses. Let's talk about the New England Patriots. These boys continue to lose games, and not only do they continue to lose, this is the worst home loss for Bill Belichick. He lost 34-0 versus the New Orleans Saints. Derek Carr, 183 yards passing, 2 scores, right? But he didn't even have to do all of that. I mean, he was okay. He was average. Saints were able to run the ball, both with Alvin Kamara, who had 22 carries for 80 yards in the score. Then Kendre Miller is starting to pick up. I'm loving what I'm seeing out of Kendre Miller. 12 carries, 37 yards. But also, Kendre Miller also pitched in the passing game for 4 receptions, 53 yards. Yes, Kendre Miller is here. Kendre Miller is here to stay. And he's going to be the guy that takes over for Alvin Kamara whenever they decide to move on. Chris Olave, very poor performance, but you didn't really need him because you had all these different weapons. He did score. Foster Moreau overcoming cancer, getting back into the league. Shout out to him. He scored, so that makes me feel good. That makes me feel amazing. Shout out to him. I really, 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 really love that story for him. But is Mac Jones the guy? I don't know. 110 yards passing off of 22 attempts. 2 interceptions. He was sacked twice. Bailey Zappi came in and gave them nothing. So as of today, Mac Jones is still better than Bailey Zappi. And the coach has gone on to say that Mac Jones is going to continue to be the guy and not Zappi. So that's great. Ramondre Stevenson and Ezekiel Elliott both got 8 carries, and they both did nothing. So it's starting to be a 50-50 split between these two guys. And if you drafted Ramondre Stevenson in fantasy, you're kind of upset right now. It just is what it is. The receiving core for the Patriots is ultra trash. I don't see no improvement. Even this defense that was supposed to be good for the Patriots, man, it looks bad. It looks bad. I don't know how things shake out. The Jets are better than the Patriots at this point of the season. And mind you, the Jets have Zach Wilson. So go figure. That mighty class of quarterbacks that is not doing well, even Trevor Lawrence isn't really particularly doing well. That class is not looking good right now as a whole. Justin Fields is looking like the best QB in that class as of right now, but neither of these guys are winning games. So it doesn't really matter. Neither of these guys are winners. So it doesn't matter. Trey Lance is not even playing at all. Now, we move on to the Pittsburgh game. Pittsburgh is just a team. They were down 10-0 for the longest, and they come back to win this game 17-10. Amazing fourth quarter. 14 big points in that fourth quarter. Kenny Pickett was able to hit my guy George Pickens for a long touchdown. Pickett doesn't impress me, but George Pickens does. 10 targets. He got 6 receptions, 130 yards, and a score. And then also Jaylen Warren seems to be the guy. Jaylen Warren had 9 carries for 40 yards, and he also had 3 receptions for 39 yards. So Jaylen Warren is outplaying Najee Harris. If you drafted Najee Harris in fantasy, you're kind of upset right now. You like, what do? You just have to stick it out. You have to stick it out. Najee Harris, maybe he's not good at football. Maybe. I don't know what the problem is, but for whatever the problem is or the reason is, Najee Harris has not looked good this season at all. And he's been outplayed severely by Jaylen Warren. Even if Jaylen Warren is not a guy that can carry the amount of workload that Najee can, you can start to see a shift later in the season, especially if the Pittsburgh Steelers are winning games. And if you're winning games, you're going to do what it takes to win. And if that means more of Jaylen Warren and less of Najee Harris, you're going to see more and more of that. That's that. Pittsburgh wins 17-10. Also getting a defensive score, I believe. That was pretty much it. in a nutshell. Defense plus George Pickens, Lamar Jackson, man. We got to stop making excuses for him. When I call him overrated, people always come from my head. And just is what it is. You know, Zay Flowers had a solid game, 5 receptions, 73 yards. When will Zay Flowers score a touchdown? I think everybody wants to know, both in the dynasty world, both in the fantasy world. Zay Flowers just cannot score right now. Is it that offense? Is it Lamar? Like, does Lamar make wide receivers better? We know what he does with Mark Andrews. When can we expect some bigger production out of Zay Flowers? Somebody let me know. All right. Moving on along, let's go ahead and go to the Houston game. I had high hopes for the Texans this game. I'm not going to lie to you. I felt the Texans had a better team, better QB, better defense, better everything, honestly. I mean, you talk about Bijan, but Dameon Pierce is starting to pick it up just a little bit. I'm not saying about much, just a little bit. But C.J. Stroud continues to play exceptional, 249 yards passing, 1 touchdown, and he's yet to throw an interception, knocking on wood. I hope he continues this kind of play because he's a special player, and he's starting to look like the best QB in this class. It's just crazy how things work sometimes. Moving on along, you have Dalton Schultz, who's starting to play well. 2 games in a row of playing absolutely well. Dalton Schultz, 7 receptions for 65 yards on the score. Tank Dell had 3 for 57, but he got a concussion. Look, I'm all in on Tank Dell. I think Tank Dell is going to be a special talent. Between Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and Dalton Schultz, he has found his group of guys. And then you sprinkle in a little bit of Robert Woods here and there. More so, better play in real life than he is in fantasy. So, yeah, C.J. Stroud has found his guys. He's found his weapons. And he's found the guys that are helping him win. Now, we have a revelation in this Falcons game. Desmond Ridder had the game of his life, in my opinion. 329 yards passing. He had a passing touchdown. And he also ran the ball 4 times for 10 yards and another rushing score. And he was the difference of this game. Bijan Robinson didn't really do much, 14 carries for 46. Algier got 17 carries for 40 yards. So I don't know what that means moving forward, but whenever the Falcons have the lead, they're going to run the ball. And they're playing the Commanders next week. So go figure. You might have 2 guys who put up monster numbers versus that weak Commanders defense. Now, with all that being said, I told you guys that there was a revelation in this game. There's 3 things that I just want to clarify. 3 things I'm not sure about the Falcons. Why is Jonnu Smith getting a lot of targets? This game, Jonnu Smith had 7 targets. He caught 6 receptions for 67 yards. So, okay, Jonnu Smith is a part of this offense. For some reason, Jonnu Smith is getting love in this offense, and that's fine. Drake London finally gives us something good. 6 receptions, 78 yards. Kyle Pitts, 7 receptions for 87 yards, and that was a great Kyle Pitts game. He was targeted 11 times. So as long as Kyle Pitts is getting 11 targets and as long as Drake London is getting 9 targets, I think not just fantasy fans, Falcons fans, everybody's excited to see these first-round picks get love. Why would you draft guys like Kyle Pitts and Drake London and Bijan Robinson to not use them, right? You drafted them super early within top 10 picks, right? So you drafted these guys to be special, and you got to make them special. Now, with this win, it just buys Desmond Ridder a little bit more time. I think that Taylor Heinicke would end up being a starting QB when it's all said and done this season. But, hey, like I said, the Falcons do play a weak Commanders team next week, so we'll see what happens there. Let's talk about the Carolina game. Carolina versus Detroit. Fantasy-wise, Carolina put up some numbers, okay? Bryce Young had his best game of the season, which was 247 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. But Adam Thielen, man, he's looked great. 11 receptions for 107 yards and a score. Are you telling me that the Vikings couldn't use this Adam Thielen? Are you telling me that they couldn't find a way to pay him decent money and keep him alongside Jefferson and Addison? But it is what it is. They drafted his replacement in Jordan Addison, so and he's also playing well over there. But, yeah, Mingo had a decent game, 5 receptions for 48 yards. He's starting to come into his own a little bit. DJ Chark was able to score. Tommy Tremble scored. But this game really wasn't close. It was never close. Jared Goff played amazing, 236 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. David Montgomery continues to ball out, 19 carries, 109 yards, a score. Greg Reynolds, another score. Jared Goff, a rushing score. So Jared Goff had an amazing day. And without no Amon-Ra St. Brown, you had Josh Reynolds step up, 4 receptions for 76 yards in the score. And Sam Laporta, 3 receptions, 47 yards, and 2 scores. Laporta has looked great. Laporta has looked amazing. He seems to be that next best special tight end to come into the NFL. And it's crazy where this guy was drafted. It's crazy that nobody's talking about this guy or was even talking about this guy through that pre-draft process. It was always about Mayer and Kincaid, Musgrave. Now Laporta, he seems to be the best tight end in that rookie class as of right now. We'll see what Kincaid does. But yeah, man, Lions look good. Lions look scary. Jameson Williams came back in his first game, but he didn't give you much. 2 receptions for 2 yards. He's just slowly but surely he's going to get into the swing of things. But man, this Lions offense looks crazy. And to be honest, they didn't need a Jahmyr Gibbs. I wish they used that pick to get something else. Had they known that David Montgomery was going to play this well, this great, 2 receptions, 20 yards. Like, what can David Montgomery do that Gibbs can't do? I'm not saying that Gibbs isn't a special back, but you don't need him, obviously. Look what they were able to do without a Jahmyr Gibbs. Just saying, that pick should have been something else that kind of helped this team flourish even more. So let's go ahead and get into this next game. You have the Giants versus the Miami Dolphins. This game was never close. These guys finally scored a touchdown in the first half. And it wasn't by the offense. That's the crazy part of the whole situation. Daniel Jones looked terrible. He also got hurt. He was sacked 6 times. They said he has an injury and they're optimistic that he might be able to play. Eric Gray led the way, 12 carries for 25 yards. They had no running game whatsoever. Darren Waller played a great game, 8 receptions, 86 yards. But outside of Darren Waller, who else do you have? Wan'Dale Robinson. Check this out, guys. 5 receptions for 18 yards. And that's your best wide receiver. 5 receptions for 18 yards. When you have guys like Darius Slayton and Paris Campbell, Isaiah Hodgins, Wan'Dale Robinson, Sterling Shepard, this has to be the worst receiving core I've ever seen in my entire life. There is nobody on this receiving core that has star potential. There is nobody on this receiving core that would make it as a wide receiver 4 on any team. These are a bunch of wide receiver 4s, and you have them all playing for one team. What good is it? I'm seeing nothing out of this group right here. Anyways, we continue to move. Miami Dolphins, this offense looks crazy. This offense looks amazing. But yeah, of course you can do it against the Giants. Let's see what Miami can do versus better defenses. They weren't able to produce versus Buffalo last week, right? But nevertheless, Tua Tagovailoa had 308 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 2 INTs. One of the INTs was a boneheaded INT from Tua Tagovailoa. Miami ran the ball 23 times, 11 times for Devin Achane and 10 times for Mostert. Devin Achane had 11 carries, 151 yards. 11 carries for 151 yards and a touchdown. 13.7 yards per carry. He's a weapon, man. He's going to be a superstar in this league. Raheem Mostert, 10 carries for 65 yards. Tyreek Hill, 8 receptions, 181 yards in the score. He could have had more. Like, Tyreek Hill is just so good that after a while, like, you can't cover him. If you go to Tyreek Hill more, this guy can produce 200-300 yard receiving games. He's that good. He's that special. And then that speed. So Jalen Waddle finally scored 5 receptions, 35 yards on the score. Good to see Jalen Waddle. Welcome to the NFL. Defensively, Miami was able to have their way with these guys. They, sacked the Giants as a total 7 times. The Giants are 1-4, man. There's a lot of 1-4 teams that are not good right now or that have no hope. So it's going to be a lot of decisions to be made. You've paid your quarterback in Daniel Jones, but when you see some other potential better quarterbacks, especially there in the draft, especially if you finish within the top 10, what do you do if you're the Giants? What position do they need most? I would say wide receiver, but do they have their franchise quarterback in Daniel Jones? That I can't tell you. Let's go ahead and look at this Cincinnati versus Arizona game. Cincinnati won the game 34-20. I'm actually shocked. Joe Burrow played his best game of the season, and I still don't trust Joe. Joe had 317 yards passing, 3 scores, 1 INT. All 3 touchdown passes went to Jamar Chase, who was targeted 19 times. He caught 15 receptions. He had 119 yards passing and 3 scores. He looked amazing. He looked special. Before the season started, I said that Jamar Chase was going to be the best wide receiver in the league. Not both in fantasy, but also in real NFL. And I have a chance for that to come through. Like, especially if he gives you games like this, 15 receptions, 192 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's going to be amazing for fantasy purposes, especially PPR leagues. Joshua Dobbs, man, he looked good to start the game, and then he started to get pretty bad. He did end up with 166 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 2 INTs. Rondale Moore was their best rusher. James Conner got hurt. And they have an undrafted rookie, Demercado. He looked pretty good. He's going to be a huge waiver wire pickup when it's all said and done. Marquise Brown, he's been solid all year, 4 receptions, 61 yards and a score. And it's amazing that Hollywood is able to produce even with a bad quarterback. So sometimes you got to go talent over situations. Sometimes when you're talented, you just do pretty good things. Now, somebody who did let me down was Michael Wilson. I thought Michael Wilson was going to come out with a breakout game, another crazy game. He had 1 reception for 18 yards. I started him in some spots, and it really hurt me in fantasy, especially in my deep leagues. That's the only place I started a guy like Michael Wilson. All right, we got a few more games to discuss. Then we'll look at the current standings of where people are right now with 5 games into the season. The Philadelphia game was fun. I'm not even going to lie to y'all. Philadelphia Eagles versus Los Angeles Rams. I enjoyed it. I felt this game should have been a shootout. I felt this game should have been high scoring, but Matthew Stafford just couldn't get it done. He did have 2 touchdowns. 222 yards passing. Kyren Williams did not have a good game this game. 13 carries for 53 yards. It's not bad, but it's not a great game. Cooper Kupp shows why he's one of the best in the league. He had 8 receptions, 118 yards. Mind you, he has not played. First game back, he gets you 8 receptions for 118 yards. Puka Nacua had 7 receptions, 71 yards, and a score. Then, of course, you have Higbee there. You have Tutu Atwell there. I still think that they have the best wide receiver core in the league. Between those 3 guys, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and Tutu Atwell, yes, I will put this group over the Eagles group that has A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. Come after me if you guys feel I'm wrong. Cooper Kupp is Cooper Kupp. Puka Nacua is breaking records. This kid is breaking records, man. To me, I think he's going to be special. And if he has any chance to be a Cooper Kupp 2.0, having 2 Cooper Kupps is better than having an A.J. Brown and a Devonta Smith. That's my personal opinion. A.J. Brown had a great game, 6 receptions, 127 yards. Dallas Goedert, man, amazing breakout game, 8 receptions, 117 yards, 1 score. And that's pretty much what helped these guys to seal this win. DeAndre Swift, which is great, especially in the passing game, man. They kind of got after Matthew Stafford a bit. 4 sacks. Jalen Carter had 2 sacks. Theo Riddick had 2 sacks. That defense was just too much for the Rams to handle. Sometimes it just is what it is, man. Let's go ahead and talk about a few more games. Let me see. Is there any game that I have not covered yet? Oh, yes, the Jets and the Broncos. I have to talk about the Jets and the Broncos and then talk about the Chiefs and then the Cowboys to kind of close things out. So when you look at the Jets, right, versus the Broncos have a terrible defense. You felt the Jets were going to be able to move the ball. Zach Wilson did okay, 199 yards passing, 1 INT. Breece Hall was the star of the show, 22 carries, 177 yards, and that long 72-yard touchdown. If you guys have not seen the replay, go back and watch the Breece Hall 72-yard touchdown. Amazing. Tyler Conklin is starting to, hold his own. He had 4 receptions for 67 yards. I started him in several leagues where I needed a tight end. Garrett Wilson, 3 for 54. This offense is just going to be one that's just going to, it's going to come along slowly. Dalvin Cook has been just terrible this season. He had 6 carries for 23 yards. So money not well spent, but we all know that Breece Hall is going to start getting more and more carries. The coaching staff has said, hey, we're going to give Breece Hall the ball, and there's no cap to the snap count or nothing like that. He's going to get the ball. So the Jets played a great game, played a phenomenal game. The Jets are 2-3. Can you believe that? While the Broncos are 1-4. It's crazy to me. Russell Wilson, 196 yards, 2 passing scores. Jaleel McLaughlin, man, he looks great. 9 carries, 68 yards. He also had pitched into the passing game, 3 receptions for 21 yards and a score. He looked great. As a whole, the Denver Broncos ran the ball pretty well. There's just a few plays here and there where they kind of messed up. P. Ryan led the team with 73 yards receiving. That was great and big time for anybody's fantasy team. Marvin Mims was nowhere to be found. I said we were going to talk about the Dallas game, and I want to talk about that game last. I enjoyed watching them lose. Man, the Chiefs versus the Vikings. The Chiefs are going to be in some tough games this year. The Chiefs are not the same team that we have been accustomed to seeing. They're going to struggle to score a little bit more because their weapons are not as good. Pacheco had 16 carries for 155 yards. Patrick Mahomes had 41 attempts, completed 31 of those for 281 yards passing, but 2 scores. Those 2 scores went to Travis Kelce, obviously, and then 1 to Rashee Rice. Travis Kelce had a magnificent game. He had 10 receptions, 67 yards, and a score. Just look at the targets. 11 targets for Travis Kelce. He gets 10 receptions, and he can't even crack 70 yards receiving. That's what I'm telling you guys about. This offense is changing. Rashee Rice, Justin Watson, Justin Ross, Kadarius Toney. It's just a group of guys, and Mahomes is just going to just make it do what it do with one of the worst receiving core in the league. Outside of Travis Kelce, the Giants do have Waller, right? But when you compare the actual wide receivers for Group A, which is Kansas City, compared to Group B, which is the Giants, it's not that much of a difference. It's just that Patrick Mahomes is a big difference maker over a guy like Daniel Jones. So, yeah, man, it was a close game, 27-20. I feel sorry for the Vikings. Every game that they've lost have been a one-possession game. And it just is what it is. Kirk Cousins had 284 yards passing. He had 2 passing touchdowns. Alexander Madison was non-existent. The run game has just been terrible. They went and got Cam Akers. He's doing nothing. Ty Chandler. It's just a terrible group of runners. Addison led the way with 6 receptions for 64 yards and a score. Something bad happened in this game. Justin Jefferson did get hurt, and it sucks seeing a guy of Justin Jefferson's caliber not being able to be out there for his team. So in fantasy, you're going to see KJ Osborne step up, TJ Hockenson, and Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison now becomes the number 1 wide receiver on this team. So, or even you can debate that Addison is going to get more of the targets than Hockenson. How do I know that? Well, Addison had 9 targets on Sunday compared to TJ Hawkinson's 8 targets. I know it's a 1 target difference, but it just is what it is. The Vikings just can't get it done. I've talked about this. I did a video on the YouTube channel, so check out the YouTube channel, Talking Sports with Manny. I said Caleb Williams to the Vikings. Why not trade Kirk Cousins to a team that desperately needs a QB and just kind of play your young guys? Play Jaren Hall, play all your young guys, see what you have, and then kind of regroup, retool, because this Vikings team is going nowhere. It's not too late. Still a lot. It's still plenty of season to go. But by week 8, if they don't have a 500 record or if they're not 3-5 at that point, then you have to break this team up. The Vikings are just not getting it done. And it's not Kirk Cousins' fault. A lot of guys hate Kirk Cousins. They say all these things about Kirk Cousins, right? But he had a solid game here, numbers-wise, right? He didn't turn over the ball. But then you want to talk about a guy like Dak Prescott, which I'm about to get into right now. And there was a lot of interesting things said about Dak Prescott. The hype for Dak Prescott was through the roof. They were saying, oh, Dak Prescott is doing great. He, when he doesn't hold the ball, like he's getting the ball out quicker. The interception numbers are down and this and that. I'm going to get into who Dak Prescott has actually played. And I'm also dropping some content on the TikTok channel, Talking Sports with Manny on TikTok. I'm going to be talking Dak Prescott just to kind of like enlighten people, because you talk about the Cowboys, you talk about Dak Prescott and what he does. He's a high price caliber quarterback. He gets paid like one of the top guys in the entire league when he's truly not. Dak Prescott last night versus a good defense, 49ers defense. 49ers are 5-0. They are the best team in all of football. There is levels. It's 49ers and then everybody else. So you have Dak Prescott, right? 153 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 3 INTs. You got Tony Pollard, 8 carries for 29 yards. So the run game wasn't there. CeeDee Lamb, he tried his best. He wasn't there. He was frustrated. He was on the sidelines crying and everything. Wasn't getting the ball. You have Tony Pollard. He fumbles. So all these things going on. Then Linton Vander Esch, he got hurt, neck again. He needs to retire. I hope for a full recovery from him. I hope he just retires. Then you also lost Trayvon Diggs. Just so much going on with the Cowboys right now. You also have Micah Parsons, who's dealing with an injury. Then he's talking about that the Dallas Cowboys are in the same caliber of team as the San Francisco 49ers. And I'm like, what? You said what? It's just crazy to me. But anyways, Brock Purdy, the last pick of the draft in his class, had 252 yards passing and 4 touchdowns. He looks great. Brock Purdy just might be the next best thing. All he needs is some titles. And he could have been close to a title last year. Had Brock Purdy not got hurt, who knows? Maybe the San Francisco 49ers end up beating Philly to then go to the title game. I don't know. It's debatable. I really think that Brock Purdy is really that good. And I'm hoping that the 49ers play the Eagles this year. That's a matchup that I want to see. Jordan Mason pitched in yesterday, 10 carries for 69 yards and a score. CMC ran 19 times for 51 yards and 1 score. CMC did not have a great game. He didn't have a great game, but sometimes, as great of a runner as he is, he needs a break sometimes. So he took that break. George Kittle was amazing. 3 receptions for 67 yards and 3 touchdowns. Every reception George Kittle had was a touchdown. That's why at the end of the day, when you look at George Kittle's stats, you're like, wait a minute. Did this guy really have 11 touchdowns? These are the games. He will have these big games where he, scores like this, and then you won't hear from him for the next 3 games. And then he does an amazing game again. So, yeah, George Kittle. Who else performed for that team? Brandon Ayuk was there, pitched in. Deebo Samuels, Christian McCaffrey. This is just a very nice offense. Kyle Juszczyk. This is a great, great offense, and it's balanced with a defense. I think, honestly, they have the best team in the league, and it's not even close. I'm not saying that these guys are going 17-0. What I am saying is that these guys have a great chance of getting to that big game, which is Super Bowl. So, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. This is the Talking Sports with Manny YouTube channel. This will be on the Talking Sports with Manny podcast. You guys can find me on Apple and everywhere else you get your podcast. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, please share. If you guys are watching the replay, let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and I always reply to every single comment. Make sure you guys follow me on Twitter at TS with Manny, TikTok TS with Manny, Facebook Talking Sports with Manny, and then Instagram TS with Manny. I'm gonna catch you guys on the next episode, and I'm out. Peace.